Welcome back to the Pesky Report. This is episode 531 of the Pesky Report, brought to you by Beyond the Monster. My name is Derek. I'm here with Jake and Hunter, and it's a very special episode. We have Tyler Milliken joining us. We are very excited. I feel like this has been in the works for a little bit. So thanks for joining, Tyler. How are you?
I'm great. I do feel like we've been talking about this for quite some time. I was looking through me and Hunter's DMs, and it was like going back to last offseason a little bit. But I'm big fans of all you guys because I feel like we speak the same language. And you know, Hunter, you're a freak. I don't even know how you survive with the way you're watching all these games in the system. People call me a prospect nerd, and there's just a different label. I don't know what I would call you, but it's a compliment. I don't mean it in a mean way. But to finally get on here and nerd out a little bit, usually I get suspended on Section 10. 5 minutes into anything that's prospect related. If we're outside the top 10, that's Jared's rule. So to come here and get a little weird and, funky with it, I'm full go right now. I know I'm getting suspended already, but I don't give a damn.
Okay,
We're having fun.
What's a minute 30 in?
It's a
That's
different
what
show.
I do. That's what I do.
Yes.
It broke my heart in the last Section 10 episode when you brought up Stanley Tucker because he's doing so good. He did so good in the AFL, and you immediately got shit on. Immediately, everybody was like, "Oh, Stanley Tucker," and I was like, "Oh, come on, man."
The dude snapped his wrist essentially at the beginning of the offseason or during spring training, excuse me. So to have like this point where he comes back in the AFL and hey, he's a fall star next to Luis Perales and he doesn't have the name value of a Luis Perales. Yeah, I'm going to tip my cap to that. That dude lays it all out. He's 100 miles per hour all the time. Like, yeah, organizational outfielders, however you want to feel about them. Those are the kind of stories I get excited and root for because I don't know. I feel like if I was playing baseball, like I'd want to be seen with that kind of makeup that I go 100 miles per hour all the time.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. This is a safe space for prospect nerding out. That's what we do here. We have our favorites. And the thing is, our favorites are everyone. So for the most part,
wait for the 30-minute
unless I can't say their
segment.
What? Unless I can't, they're our favorites unless I can't say their name.
Yeah. And that happens sometimes. I have to bring this up. Hunter, you got some merch there that you're wearing. It looks like we have not.
I do have some merch.
This is the first Pesky Report minor league
show
that we've
God,
done.
I have a
little Salem Ridge Yaks, baby.
The Salem Red Sox have been rechristened as the Salem Ridge Yaks, and Hunter, being the dedicated fan that he is, already has the merch. We have not
literally that night. I went on. I got
sick man
champion sweatshirt, and I got a shirt.
So was there any was there, I guess for everybody, like, what do we think of the name? Like, I think it's amazing.
I love it.
I mean, it doesn't
goofy.
make,
that's what
it's
I want.
goofy. It's perfect.
That's what minor league baseball should be. Give me the trash pandas. Give me stuff like that all the time. Like, go and sell jerseys. That's what minor league baseball needs. Like, there's so many people that collect hats and different stuff like that. Give me that over, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful. The Salem Red Sox could not be a worse name. Like, what does that do for anybody? Right. The only pro was I got to see some of these guys in a Red Sox-ish uniform so I could post them on Twitter. That is the only positive, and I can get that during spring training. A Ridge Yak, this whole thing, guy in a canoe, all of it. I need it.
In a canoe.
Yeah.
Well, my first reaction, honestly, was, "What the fuck is a Ridge Yak?" And then I was like, I'm like, okay. My only gripe is like, okay, I don't like how much they're emphasizing the color blue, just like the different types of blue. I'm like, a little bit of contrast, but like, I also too am kind of for like if a team has like a random color, like, and I feel like blue is just kind of like a general color a lot of sports teams use. Like, give me like a purple or something, or or I don't know about green, but like, or like a yellow or something. Give me something fun. Like, if we really want to get fun, like that's my only thing. Just because it's two different shades of blue, it feels very also kind of Seattle Kraken-y with the two different types of blue. But I do like it. I remember earlier this year we had a big discussion on it, and I was like, "This is stupid. Like, we're gonna have to wait till November, and they might just name it something stupid anyways." But I guess I'll eat my words on it.
I think that you look at the other teams, and I feel like they do a lot of theme jerseys, like variations and stuff like that. And I don't think that maybe it's just because it was low A. I don't know that the Salem Red Sox did a lot of that, but I think like hopefully that's going to be an opportunity for them to do some different cool alternate jerseys and different stuff.
They should have just been the Salem Spinners.
Oh, dude, I am so with you on that. And I don't know if there's something blocking them, but a chance to have like a Lowell Spinners-esque jersey going. You're telling me people wouldn't be going nuts for that in general. It would be such a like nostalgia thing. But the Ridgeax, the logo, the little antler, whatever you call that thing with the baseball on it, like who up like that little weird detail? Like that's the kind of stuff that actually does excite me a little bit. But I agree, Derek. The chance to bring the Spinners back would have been legendary. There has to be something blocking them for them to not even float it out there.
Well, I think the only thing would be because it's a different franchise. I think that's probably I think they probably wouldn't have wanted to go in that direction. If you're running the Salem Red Sox, to be like, why are we pulling from a team that's in the same that wasn't the same organization, but also like has nothing to do with them?
That's a really good question about like what is the current status of the different rights of the teams that were in the leagues that got contracted in 2020. Like I don't know the answer to that. That would be interesting to find out. So the Ridgeax, long live the Ridgeax. Hopefully some cool stuff around that that we get going forward. So Tyler, so we're recording this Monday the 17th to like get into some of the nuts and bolts of stuff here. Tomorrow, the day this will go up, the 18th, is the Rule 5 deadline. Again, this is the nerd out stuff that we like to talk about here. The Red Sox currently have a full 40-man, so they're going to have to make some decisions. And in terms of both guys that they want to add and guys that they're going to have to get rid of. So when you look at the list of guys that could potentially get added, I think there are names that we've talked about quite a bit, guys that are in both Worcester and Portland potentially. But when you look at the situation, who do you see as being like, let's say like the first, maybe like, who do you think is a lock to be added? Do you think that there's another layer of another maybe few guys that could be added? And then who do you see kind of going out of the roster, and what means do you kind of see them potentially going out of the roster?
Yeah, I was a little surprised. MLB Pipeline put out, their kind of prediction at the entire thing. They had Miguel Blaze, and I'm like, I don't know what year we're looking at. I can't imagine him sticking on a big league roster at this point in time. So I definitely didn't land there, but that does pivot me to Ian Kundle, who put out a great piece for Baseball America labeling essentially the hardest Rule 5 draft decision for every team. And he had Shane Drowan on there. And I kind of looked at him, and I look at this entire list of guys. I think the only lock I have is David Sandlin right now. Because you just look at David Sandlin, and obviously things went a little sideways with the reliever experiment at the end of the year. But someone who really took a step forward in terms of starting, even with slightly decreased stuff. And someone who I think Brian Abraham really emphasized, don't let the end of the year kind of throw you off of what you did this year. There's a reason why we tried you in this kind of position in the first place, because I think the floor for someone like David Sandlin is a multi-inning impact arm along the lines of, I'm not talking ceiling wise, but can you be used in a way close to, early 2021 Whitlock or Justin Slayton in that very first season after he ended up getting dealt here. So I'd have David Sandlin as my one main. I think when you start talk about Drohan and Hayden Mullins, they fall into a similar tier for me overall, just because they're both lefties with like real ability to miss bats. And I think for Drohan overall, like something that was kind of weird about him this year that a lot of people didn't realize between the injuries, 4 pitches, all with a whiff rate over 34%. Dude, that is real stuff. And it felt like he kind of missed his window to get called up due to some of the injuries he was dealing with. And I look at Mullins, and I know the fastball has been playing really well. I can't believe he's starting still at Double-A. He was not one of those guys that I expected to kind of stick that long in that role. And while I don't think he's going to be a long-term starter or anything like that, if you have a chance to draft a guy who has a big fastball from the left side, we see how that plays up in the big leagues. And he's someone you could hide at the back of a bullpen and probably say, hey, don't worry about, having this entire arsenal of pitches. We're going to lock in on the fastball in one of your secondaries and let it ride. That's not crazy to me. So I'd put those two at a, one of those two. I think it would be a little redundant in my eyes to have two lefties and kind of a multi-inning bullpen role long-term, both protected at the same time. And then right below that, Tyler Uberstein, who I am a big fan of. I love the way he kind of was able to.
Another Tyler.
Yes, another Tyler, another T-Dog, a guy who showed the ability to start, but also work out of the bullpen, and with a pretty wide arsenal as well, so he can attack hitters in a different way. And I think the last guy that's kind of the wild card is Yordany Monegro, who had Tommy John at the end of August. You remember Angel Bastardo last year getting picked in Rule 5, ends up going to the Blue Jays, rehab this entire season. He'll end up sticking with the Blue Jays this year if he ends up spending 90 days on their roster. But someone with his rehab schedule who might end up working perfectly for a team that wants to bring him in for a year and let it play out. I'd just be curious to see what the Red Sox think of him in kind of a big picture view, because we know the fastball really wasn't lighting anyone up. But with those secondaries, is that something on their models they get super excited about? Maybe so. And like outside the box names, Jennings Paez, I know people love him in a model kind of standpoint because of his secondaries, despite the lack of velocity. Alex Hoppe could always get popped in like a Ryan Fernandez like kind of vibe, and big arm Ryan Zefferjon type, whatever it may be. But I think for the 40-man on its own, the three names that I'm staring at, Josh Winkowski, I don't know how he's still in the org at this point in time. It's kind of a jump scare when you see the name. Giovanni Moran, another guy, lefty, he's not going to be here next year. We know that. And then Nathaniel Lowe, who's not going to be tendered a contract. So those are three easy kind of DFA decisions if you want to fit these guys on. But this is the impact of Connolly Early and Peyton Tolley being needed down the stretch, because those are two 40-man spots that you probably didn't expect to have, filled up that you now do. But I'd have Sandlin locked in, one of the two lefties. I lean Mullins a little bit. But I think with Shane, you can make the argument he's closer to the big leagues. And I think probably more likely than not, Uberstein and Monegro go unprotected.
I also want to chuck in a name that, I don't know if he probably won't get DFA'd now, but just it's interesting because he has no options. It's Cooper Criswell.
Yeah.
Just in terms of, like, I could see another team being like, yeah, we'll trade for him, like, before spring training or something.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we'll take him.
I would say that, like, something that's come up is that this day of the Rule 5 decisions, there's a lot of like minor trades and stuff. So you could see a situation where somebody that we're not necessarily expecting gets sort of traded for somebody who's not Rule 5 eligible, like someone lower in the minor leagues, like that kind of thing. Like, and that could be somebody like Cooper Criswell, or we were talking a little bit before we came on about Vaughn Grissom, like guys like that. Like if they could, I feel like if the Red Sox could get anything for Vaughn Grissom, they'd be pretty thrilled to do that. But I just, and it's interesting, all the names you mentioned were pitchers. And I think that speaks to a couple different things. Number one, the Red Sox they're in this interesting position in the minor league system where they have created a lot of pitching depth. And it's not necessarily, and we're not talking about like guys that are absolutely going to be big league contributors or be successful at the big league level, but it is that like depth, and they have built a lot of depth. So like all these names we're talking about are pitchers. At the same time, the Red Sox depth of position player quality, because of the graduations to the major leagues and trades that they made this past year, has been depleted significantly. So we're not really. You mentioned Miguel Bleis. I think MLB Pipeline just put him on there because like he was a top 100 prospect.
He was the biggest name they probably saw. Which is like,
it's like, oh yeah, let's add him, and he's not. I just don't. There's no chance that he's gonna get added. I don't see any team, the lowest bottom feeding team, saying that we're gonna put Miguel Bleis on a guy who just like has not performed at AA like to any significant level.
I'd like to say no, but there are stupid teams. I do always like to throw that part out.
That's playing left field on opening day for the White Sox. He's going nuts. Miguel Bleis, baby.
Or like I was thinking like the Rockies. Yeah. Or maybe like Paul Taboni's just like, yeah, we're just gonna take him.
You ever heard of Ronald Acuna Jr.? Watch this.
If he could stay healthy, Miguel Bleis would probably cook in Colorado.
Defensively, he'd be able to be fine. He'd very much be fine. It's just
goes to show, like, unfortunately, how far he's fallen as a prospect, that we're talking about, like, yeah, Miguel Bleis could get taken in the Rule 5 draft, and none of us would be, like, I'm not saying we wouldn't be upset, because, again, we love everybody here. We love all the prospects. But, like, if they did, it would be like, okay. Like, it sucks. It sucks, like, what happened to him. Like, he felt like he was on this major ascent, and then he messes up his shoulder, and he has really not been the same. Like, just in terms of, like, there's talent there, but like you've seen it in these. We've talked to Liam Carroll about it on more than one occasion. We've had him on our show. Like that, it's just not, the consistency is just not there. So if he got taken in Rule 5, I don't know. I can't really say that. Is that going to happen? I don't think so. But if he did,
yeah, like it's hard. Like he's 21. Like I feel like we almost are broken a little bit in terms of like prospect development time for certain people. Like you watch Roman Anthony push to the big leagues like this, and you're like, everybody, how are you not this high? Even Franklin Ari is getting up to AA at 19. It's like, oh, if you're not immediately, at this level or at this age, like you're a bust or you're not that guy. Like Miguel Bleis is 21 years old. Like maybe it clicks age 22, 23, and he's pushing for the big leagues at 24, 25. Like who knows if he'll be in this organization, and obviously Rule 5 and these other things come into factor. But like a lot of these guys, like they need development. I think that's the thing with someone like Miguel Bleis. We know the struggles against secondaries. We know the issues with strikeouts and some of this stuff. So
the pop-ups.
Exactly. Like, can you turn a lot of that athleticism into what everybody loved? I was posting BP swings he was taking from Instagram. I was so hyped about him. Like I mentioned Ronald Acuna Jr. earlier. That was the Alex Spear article from a couple years ago when the hype was really there. And it wasn't like it was just Red Sox fans doing that. Baseball America had him on their top 100. This guy's stock was through the roof before that shoulder injury popped up.
And what's frustrating is, and Jake kind of alluded to it, we will get, we do like the weekly show during the season, and there's like 4 or 5 weeks every each of the last multiple seasons where we're like, holy hell, like this is the Miguel Bleis everybody talks about. Like he'll have a week where he like hits 500 with 4 homers and 5 steals, and he makes a couple diving plays, and it's just like, this is the guy. But it's the consistency. He pops the ball up too much. It is sad that it's gotten to that point where if you would have said 2 years ago, like, oh, the Red Sox might lose Miguel Bleis in the Rule 5 draft, people would have panicked. There would have been widespread anger. And now he's a name that if you bring it up to the common person, like Miguel Bleis might get taken, they'd be like, no, he's not. You're fine.
I tweeted it today, like, the screenshot, and everybody took it as like, Miguel Bleis? No way. And it was like, no, it wasn't that. It was just like, I would be floored if this guy was taken by a team. There's no way I see it. It's not, oh no, like this is panic mode. Yeah. They better protect him. Like I have no fear or worry about them protecting him. And I don't think it's something they're thinking about.
And then I do just want to mention 2 other names that I don't think were brought up. One, I don't think is going to happen. But I do think there's maybe like a little market for Tyler McDonough. He very much reminds me of Nick Sogard in like he plays every position. He's really good at a lot of those positions. He puts the bat on the ball. He can steal the occasional base. Like I think he's a very underrated toolsy utility type player that I
would have made the Brock Holt comparison there.
I could see a team being like, hey, this guy would be good as the last guy on the bench who we can throw in at multiple positions. And then someone who you maybe don't have to worry about too much because he didn't get past AA. But I mean, there's still always with pitchers, you never know. Jeremy Wu-Yelland, left-hander, flamethrower. He had a lot of really electric moments this year. Obviously, like the development was stunted because of injuries over the years. But this was a big positive year for him, and he's someone I'm a little worried about a team sniping and like seeing him as again a guy who you throw in the back end of your bullpen. He used to be a starter, so you could have him go multiple innings. He's someone that
Ward got picked in the Rule 5 as well. So let's just
there you go.
Yeah.
Nothing against him, but like,
and it's a sign of where the Red Sox are at, though, that you're seeing them get plucked like they did last year. Once again, like it's just the rising of the overall talent level in the organization. Like even. I'm going to throw Noah Song's name out there. I don't think he's going to get popped, but obviously popped a couple of years ago, and that really sidetracked a lot of things, as well as injuries coming into play and all that. It was a fine year for Noah Song. We're seeing him continue to build up, but you never know what someone hears over this month after the season ends, where it's one scouting report, it's one workout at Tread or, any of these pitching labs drive line, and you hear just one little thing. Boom. That was the Garrett Whitlock thing. Seeing him on Instagram back in the day, post Tommy John, and he's just firing, and the velo's playing, and all of a sudden Garrett Whitlock's on the radar, and look at what he's been for this team in the last, half decade or so.
And every team views prospects differently. So,
yeah.
I mean, we saw it with the trade for was it Dustin May? Yeah, for Dustin May. Where they gave up Tibbs and Zach Earhart, and it was one of those things where they viewed Zach Earhart higher than the Red Sox did, which is why they wanted him.
Looks pretty good.
So like there might be a team out there that's like
should be.
I can't call on every single time we bring him up. We'd be like, yep, I'm the only person who is like, yeah, Red Sox are definitely gonna draft him. That was our whole thing.
There might be a team out there that's like, oh, Dalton Rogers is the guy. Why aren't the Red Sox moving him up? So you never know who's going to get taken in these, and you never know who's not going to get taken. They might not protect anyone outside of Sandlin, and then no one gets taken. Unlikely, but you never know.
Because you're going to see with the 40 man, and this is what's going to make some people, I think, uncomfortable. And this is where the Vaughn Grissom thing could come in. They have work to do. They're going to need room for whether it's Pete Alonso or Alex Bregman, Okamoto, guys are going to get DFA'd where you kind of turn your neck and you're like, whoa, really? Like that guy's out of here? But that's what it is now. It's not a 40 man anymore where guys get, DFA'd and nobody wants them. Sorry, Luis Guerrero. I guess that did happen over the last couple of days. But for the most part, we've seen teams are starting to jump up on what you consider, these scrap heap players or guys you're moving on from. And it's a good sign for the organization, but it's also the reality of protecting some of these guys. And you can always make a hard decision later. That's why with the 3 names we mentioned, like Tyler Uberstein or something like that, I just protect them because I believe there's more there than someone like Josh Winkowski at this point, who has openly said that he really doesn't mix well with the pitching infrastructure. The options are now a significant hurdle as well. Yeah. Give me the flexibility when it comes to the roster, because as we saw this year, you have good arms now. Rotate these guys as much as you can because you're going to burn through them as the year goes along.
I wonder if David Hamilton's in trouble. That's one that I wonder, because he's only got one option left, and nothing against David Hamilton, but you're a speed guy who really only plays second base.
He's another guy I'd group in with Grissom that I think the organization looks at, and it's very hard with some of the deals that were on the table for him last offseason that they weren't willing to jump on. Whether, and Will Fleming's come out and said it, but I can tell you it was in the scoop shop for some time about deals with Luis Castillo, Tristan Casas, some of these different packages that were coming together. He was one of the main names they were really into, and to have to come a season later and you're DFAing that guy or making a trade for a quadruple A arm because, hey, we don't just want to let him go for nothing. Those are things they're going to have to accept, even though I'll be the first one to tell you, give me Nick Sogard on my roster every day.
Yeah, 100%.
I want Nick Sogard out there doing the damn thing.
Well, also too, you could see a David, if they can bring in more Yoiker Fajardo type players. I'm not going to complain.
Bro, please.
I don't think any of us will complain.
I was just saying how I finished my top 30 before we started this. I will just say he is very, very, very high on my top.
He should be.
He should be.
I think he also gets a little bit of a bump considering that I think we're the ones who put it into existence that he was going to get traded.
Yes, this podcast is the reason why Yoiker Fajardo is in the Red Sox organization.
I remember the day the Cam Boozer trade went down. Me and Coley before the show, because Jared was like, "Get this out of your systems. You guys can talk about this." I was looking at his peripherals. I'm like, "Oh my fucking God, what are the White Sox doing?" I was like, "What is this move?" And then he comes here, has a very solid season. But White Sox are going to White Sox, whether it's him or it's Romy Gonzalez. Pick your poison, man.
Obviously, it's a lottery ticket prospect, whatever.
Yeah,
I just don't get it from the point of view of, did the White Sox think they were going to contend? Why were they we need this 32-year-old lefty reliever?
To be fair, they traded away Tatis, so they can kind of do. Let's be honest here. The White Sox. The White Sox are going to White Sox. I'm shocked that they at this point. I'm shocked they didn't trade Lou Bob for peanuts. Literally, the fact that they're going to pay him $20 million. It's are you guys okay?
They got Andrew Benintendi sitting out there with all that money.
Yeah, that too.
So have fun.
That might be the worst, the worst production out of an outfield that probably is costing them $40 million a year.
I do have to say though that
Robert options.
Yeah, I do think that at who knows what's going to end up happening. I think that the Crochet trade looks like a good trade for them. I'm not saying they in terms of just what they got back. They got guys that are going to who knows if the White Sox are ever going to make the playoffs when those guys are on the team. Maybe those guys end up being they get to the end of their runs and then they end up getting traded. But I'm just saying those guys, they got big leaguers out of that trade. And so considering the options, I guess. Like, I'm sure they took what they thought was the best trade they were going to get, and they got guys that are big leaguers.
You guys know who'd be a really good fit for the Red Sox right now? Chase
Maidroth, fucking ball player.
That one hurt me more than anything. When I saw Kyle Teal's name, I was like, painful. Braden Montgomery, ouch. Chase Maidroth almost threw my phone out the window. I was like, please, how could you do this?
I think we all would have loved to have watched that guy play for the Red Sox. Like,
he'd fit perfectly at second base too.
This is true.
Like, just slot him in at second.
The guy that doesn't strike out, like, just it's tough.
Also,
I'm happy with. I think we're all happy with Derrik Kristian.
Yes, we are very much happy.
Second in the Cy Young, like, signed him long term. It's great, but
we're not complaining.
But of all of the bad moves that the White Sox have made the last however many years, like,
how come they had to make one good move?
They've made one good move, but it's also a trade that the other team doesn't regret at all either. Yeah. So let's talk about the trading thing. I was just curious about, like, your thoughts in terms of guys who, like, were minor league contributors last year. Maybe they contributed some to the majors this year, like guys that are on the 40-man. You mentioned, like, the crunch, the fact that they're going to have to open spots. And there's been a lot of talk, obviously, we don't really know anything, but, like, the Red Sox seem like they could make trades to address issues with the major league roster. Do you think, like, how likely do you think it is that guys like Early or Tolley or other guys that are maybe closer to the major leagues potentially, that they could be found on the trading block this offseason?
Yeah, I think the hard thing to come to grips with is if you're going to acquire elite talent, you're going to have to give up something serious in terms of value, more likely than not. Especially in this kind of situation where we're all looking for a number 2 starter the day he lands here. He's that guy, right? Like, you don't have to think about it, whether, the Hunter Green talks have been going kind of crazy despite us still not having a substantial rumor that he's being moved in any way. But I go back to, like, the Joe Ryan stuff, and we know they were talking about Sandy at that same deadline. And the fact that, 2 out of 3 of, Arias, Tolley, and Garcia were what they were kind of trying to shape as a, package, according to Rob Bradford's reporting, they were willing to get uncomfortable. Now, I will say a lot has changed since that trade deadline, right? Like, whether you want to look at Tolley, whose stock about 2 weeks after that broke through the ceiling. But we also know when they were talking with the Diamondbacks at that time about Merrill Kelly, they were pretty insistent on moving Brandon Clark. They were saying, we want Connolly Early. And I looked at what Connolly Early did this year, and not often, we all follow prospects we kind of see. I feel like we have a bit of an expectation when they come up, at least more than, people who don't pay attention to the minors or what. Connolly Early floored me when he came up, even beyond that, after I think it was like 6 starts at AAA. To see what he did against the A's, essentially working with 2 different approaches in his arsenal to work through a top 10 lineup in the sport. To hear Alex Cora make the point of this guy was more prepared than any pitcher I've ever seen called up before in terms of game planning and kind of being a junkie, to even what we saw in that playoff start where he deserved way better than what his final line actually was. And just didn't look nervous, didn't look overwhelmed. And that's no disrespect to Peyton Tolley, who, it's insane that he hadn't thrown a pitch in professional baseball and it landed in the big leagues, between improving the cutter this past year, the more vertical shape to the curveball starting to get a little bit better. It was freakish to see him in the big leagues. So freakish, I feel bad for someone like Kyson Witherspoon at this point in time, because the expectation is so out, Trey Savage, whoever you want to name, like, these are ridiculous climbs through the minors. And I do think pitching as a whole, people are emphasizing saving bullets for the big leagues more now than ever. But yeah, I think some of the names, like, I think Franklin Arias is definitely going to be out there. I think Tolley will be. Early is someone I sit back on, because the fact that they were willing to say no at the deadline tells me their projections were always higher. And I think maybe some of the projections publicly on Clark, especially the middle of the year when we saw him, hovering in that 60 to 70 top prospect range, it seems like other teams weren't as high on him. And you can dive into the numbers, and we know, I don't think he averaged 4 innings a start even across his time, and some of the blister issues at the end of the year popping up. But I think you got to look at a lot of that top 10, because that's what it's going to take to land any of the trade candidates we continue to go about. Whatever's the hot one on Twitter that week. None of this comes cheap. I'm sorry to tell you, like, you're going to pay a premium, and this is the time to pay a premium.
Yeah, I want to also throw on too, like, it doesn't necessarily too like a trade where, like, you kind of look at it now, like, I could see like like Jarren Duran, because everyone's gonna talk about Jarren Duran, like, he might just be the odd man out of the outfield, or Willier might be the odd man out, or there's a little bit of me is kind of getting greedy, but like they both might be odd men out, right?
Kristian Campbell, do you want a place to go?
Yes.
I will say I am shocked at the way they are talking about him right now, because talk about taking all the pressure off a guy going into the offseason. You didn't want to push him. To say he showed up at Fort Myers, the exit velocity numbers are already back. We're talking winter ball, like, whoa,
yeah, there are.
Let's pump the Jets a little bit here.
Now everyone's like, oh, all right, like, well, he better be what we saw in April. It's like, that is such a tough expectation.
Although I could very well be sold on a Campbell, Rafaela, Anthony outfield. I absolutely
for the right.
That kind of feels like what they're setting up a little bit. Yes. I mean, I think I go back to like my, the thing that happened during the season that I was very much against the Red Sox sending him down to the minor leagues. I think that he obviously he needed it, and obviously it was the right thing to do when the team ends up making the playoffs without him. The bottom line, though, is that they have. I keep going back to the fact that they have committed a big amount of money to him in a major league contract. And I think that they are not like wrong for saying that they want him to be part of what is going on at the major league roster, but he has to, I feel like last year they went into the season with this preconceived thing that he was going to be on the big league roster based off of the previous year, based off of that offseason, all that kind of stuff. My hope is that they go into this next season with him, whatever the situation is, whoever is here, whoever is not here, whatever, he has to earn it, and it can't just be like handed to him, and it does really feel like the second base job was handed to him last spring. It's
scary to look at that, and like, I'm not here to cry about Rafael Devers, despite doing it somewhat frequently, but the whole entire fallout of that decision where you felt like Kristian Campbell had to be there, and you had to tip their cap on opening day. The guy wins AL Rookie of the Month. You're seeing it all. But, was there a pathway where the Bregman at second base and Devers at third base was a realistic thing you could have talked about? Maybe Yoshida never goes to Siberia, right? And he plays DH. So understand the value or how important it is and how dangerous it is to pencil guys into spots maybe where they're not deserving. Because as much as you want to talk Campbell, and the bat was up and down during camp, the scary thing was the defense. He never looked comfortable out there. The clock was always off. And I believe if he struggled offensively and the defense was good enough, he doesn't get sent down. I think he gets a way longer leash. When you were the worst defensive second baseman in the sport, for a pitching staff at that time was performing so below what was expected and what we saw over the next 4 months, the run prevention unit, or whatever you want to call it, could not look at that and justify it anymore. So I think it's hard with Campbell to make that decision, but I think it's an $8 million luxury tax hit this year. It's not some small thing what he's going to be hitting on, your calculations.
I also just think it's important for people to remember, because I feel like they tend to not remember that the dude was in high A to start not even 2 years ago. He was starting the season in high A. That was just such an absurd jump. And like we've talked about it so many times, the speed of the game in the majors is just such a massive step up from AAA. So for him to go from high A to the majors in 12 months, like that's such a drastic change. So it's unsurprising that he had the issues, and then there was the rib problem. So like it's and then it just kind of felt like everything was spiraling with him. That you could tell the confidence was down at one point. He was swinging at things he usually didn't swing at. And something I've loved to hear from some people in the organization, I know Brian Abraham mentioned it, is the fact that they really did like his defense in the minor leagues. Because I feel like that's something people are bringing up now as an argument. Is like, oh, he always sucked at defense. And
they moved him around. Like he couldn't play anything, right? Like no, Breslow
liked his defense. Yeah.
And he's an athlete too.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's the other half. Now, my question to you, Hunter, and you guys overall, because you're kind of been down there and doing the whole thing. What was Kristian Campbell at the end of the year like versus, maybe what he looked like a year prior as the season was wrapping up? Did you notice a difference in maybe like confidence, or just, I'm not comparing him to Brian Mata, but we always hear of Brian Mata, horrendous body language, like doesn't look good. It seemed like Campbell never fell into that camp. And do you guys buy the weight? Simply being what was wrong with him over the course of the season, which really the only other time the last few years I heard that in a significant way was Ceddanne Rafaela's rookie year, where they said, hey, like he lost a lot of weight during the season, couldn't make it back up. Do you think it's kind of a combination of those things, or?
The first time I ever saw him in person, literally one of my first reactions was, holy shit, this dude's jacked. Like I just was not ready for it. And admittedly, that's not something when I saw him as the year went on. I never really thought to be like, oh, does he look visibly skinnier? I did feel like there was definitely a confidence thing going on with him. Like I felt like you could see it in his face when he was batting, and just the way he was swinging sometimes, and the body language. But it was never a negative for the team. Like when I saw him in Worcester, like he immediately, oh, Hunter, what's up? He always going to be the nicest dude in the world. I don't think he would ever drag his issues into the clubhouse. Like, I don't think he would ever make that an issue for the team. I don't think you'll ever hear coaches be like, oh yeah, he was sulking and, oh, we were trying to tell him something and you could tell he didn't want to listen. That's something I don't think we're ever going to have to worry about. He's more to me the guy where the coaches are going to have to tell him. And you guys have talked about it on Section 10 before. He probably shouldn't have been playing when he was hurt. But he's one of those guys that's just going to be like, do I have a pulse? Cool, I'm out there. Like, so
you want me to play first base? I'll freaking go out there and try
exactly.
to learn it on the
fly.
fly.
He was more than ready to go play a position he's never played when they already have him playing 42 other positions. So I don't think fans will ever have to worry about Kristian Campbell bringing the negativity to the team. But I do think that you could see the confidence in him being a bit of an issue. And I think as the year went on, things started to get better again. Having as bad of a month as he had in the majors and then getting sent down to the minors, that's going to mess with anyone. Like, it doesn't matter who you are, that's going to mess with you. And by the end of the year, I feel like he was basically back to his normal self. And I think he was ready to be like, okay, we're getting that fresh off season. I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to get 100% healthy. I'm going to work on what needs to be worked on. And we had already seen like the in zone all the behind the scenes stuff that they loved about him was getting back to where it should be. And it was more just, again, like the power was gone, which you could argue was the losing weight or the injury, whatever you want to argue. The exit velocity just wasn't there as much. So I think that we'll see a much better version of Kristian Campbell in terms of headspace next year. I don't want to put anything on him of being like, oh, we're going to see April Kristian Campbell again next year, but I think we'll see just an overall more confident player next year.
Yeah, I'll just jump in and say that, like, with Kristian Campbell too, I think it'll just also help too in terms of like locking him down into one position, and just in terms of like keep him so he's not jumping all over the place, right? Don't ask him to play first base. Not that I doubt they would need to, especially if they want to sign a first baseman. But just keep him in one spot. I mean, it seems like they're gearing him up for the outfield. Seems like that would seemingly be left field, considering I don't see any reason why you would put anyone other than Ceddanne Rafaela in center field.
Oh, hey, Alex Cora last year.
That's the Red Sox did that.
I know.
Dude, 3 games into the season, Cora has an epiphany. He goes, Kristian Campbell, the center fielder?
Yes.
How did this never come to mind? It's like,
after he played left field already as well. After he had already played left weeks. After he'd already played left field in a regular season game. They're like, oh, well, he's going to play center field because, the Green Monster at Fenway. What about on the road, though? Like, there's no Green Monster. I'm not going to lie. All this stuff about Kristian Campbell, like, all this stuff feels like it's 3 years ago at this point for me. It feels so long ago. But
we should keep them in one spot. Yeah, so I think that gets into an interesting discussion about the direction of where the Red Sox are going as a team and as a franchise, because I think that there's been some focus and some talk about the Red Sox need to get better at how they instruct guys and develop guys defensively in the minor leagues. I think we've heard that from Brian Abraham. We've heard it from Craig Breslow. And I one thing I go back to, and I think I've heard the Sox prospects guys talk about this a little bit, which is like they move guys around all the time. And I think that there has to be a little bit more of a balance in terms of let's have guys be versatile and be able to play different spots, but the balance also being if a guy is really good at something, we need him to kind of focus on that instead of trying to maybe force something that they're not as good at. And I think that Campbell is a great example of this, where I wonder if you gave like truth serum to Brian Abraham, and obviously when, you know, and other guys that were here, if you told them like, what should you guys have done with Campbell in 2024, the answer that I'm sure they'd give is we probably should have just had him play second base every day. Or if we decided that we didn't see him as that being that guy in the big leagues, we're going to move him to the outfield every day. Because I just think that like, yes, like there is value and versatility in the big leagues. There's value in that for certain guys. But if you especially think that a guy's going to be a starter in the big leagues at a certain position, I just think that you have to like, there has to be something said to giving that guy the most reps that he can possibly get at that spot. And I know there's going to be curveballs and things thrown at you. Like the opportunity for Marcelo Meyer this past year was at third base, and the Red Sox put him at third base when Bregman got hurt. It turns out that Marcelo Meyer is really good defensively just about everywhere he plays. So that was a good one. But like, you know, when guys come up to the big leagues, if they're starters, they tend to mostly play one spot. And if you're moving guys around from third base and these guys are playing multiple different spots in the infield, like, or they're playing some in the outfield, some in the infield too. We've seen this with catchers where guys get moved around a lot. It feels like we had this like this is a whole other tangent, but like when we did our sort of end of the year stuff for like positions at each level, or we were picking like who was the best catcher, I think, for the system, it was hard because there were not a lot of guys that had caught more than like 40 to 50 games this past year. So it's like, so I don't know. What are your thoughts about that, Tyler? Like,
no,
yeah.
I think it's a real question. And I think like there's certain guys who are built for the kind of versatile profile, and ultimately versatility is going to be the difference between them likely making the big leagues or not. Whether Tyler McDonough, Ryan Fitzgerald, Nick Sogard, right? Guys who had to kind of carry that versatility. I do agree on the Kristian Campbell front that like that was a guy getting him reps at shortstop, for example. No disrespect to Kristian Campbell. Nobody expected him to ever play shortstop at the big league level. Like stuff like that is where I kind of sat back and I'd question, all right, like, are we just doing it to say you're versatile, or are you trying to just add to his stock so when you have trade conversations with other teams, like they're into it? Other teams know Kristian Campbell wasn't going to play shortstop, right? So I think there's just, it's important to have versatility, but if you're versatile and you're not good at any one singular position, it doesn't make sense. And I think that's where you kind of have to look at it at almost an individual case. There's certain guys that are just comfortable moving around and it doesn't bother them. There's other guys where maybe you should take a step back and not do it. Even with the password, like hearing he was going to get first base reps at the very end of the season, that to me felt like, are you setting up a guy to succeed at that point in time? Where played an entire season and now at the stretch run with a couple weeks in a playoff run, you're going to get him reps at first base, potentially in an emergency situation where he has to come up despite not figuring it out at the big league level, obviously, because he had such a small little sample size before he got sent down. But, oh no, now you're going to maybe use him at first base on top of it. Like these are our options in September. That to me is like looking at certain players and are you putting them in the right position to be successful? And I think it's such a case by case kind of thing. But I do think with someone like Kristian Campbell, like you said, we always knew the bat was going to be the carrying tool with him. That was what was going to stand out. Worrying so much about versatility maybe was doing a little too much. And I do think Jen McCaffrey had a great little nugget over the last couple of weeks about, you know, last year, the Red Sox employed defensive coaches at each affiliate, but only 2 with the teams were full-time. This year, it's going to be 4 full-time defensive coaches down there. So little stuff like that, clearly they're picking up on some of those things where they fell behind organizationally. And I think this should hopefully start to show some of that change. But if you're already in the big leagues, like, or AAA, AA, this is going to mean more to the next generation of guys, the Sotos or whoever it may be. I even look at someone like Nathan Hickey, where we all knew he wasn't a big league catcher, and they continued to run this experiment again and again. It was like, is the best thing for Nathan Hickey to be behind the plate at this point in time, or should he be focusing on first base and letting that bat continue to go? I just wish maybe it wasn't such a, and it felt like the last couple of years, it was just versatility. We really don't care about who the player is or what. We just care about the philosophy of playing as many positions as you can. And the last couple of years of Red Sox baseball show that, where you had guys out of position and Christian Arroyo throwing his hands up in the sky, wondering what's going on. Like, it's kind of the representation of that issue.
I will just say, if Ronaldo Hernandez can catch, I think anyone can catch. But you know,
fair point.
I don't know, dude. There were times I felt really bad for Hickey. There were times where
they're running on the guy.
Teams would go like 13 for 13 on steals in the game, and I was like, come on, man. Like,
it was bad. It was bad. There were some times where it was really bad. Although like there was a little bit of like, it felt like there was more momentum a couple years ago for like the full blown like automated strike zone, where it was like, oh, well, all these catchers are going to have to do is throw guys out. So if they have a strong arm, like, they'll be okay, right? And clearly that's not the case anymore. You still need a frame, and you still have to block balls anyways. But, like, you know, I think there was a little bit of thought a couple of years ago where it was like, well, if you get the automatic ball strike zone, like, they're not going to have to frame. All they got to do is just throw guys out. And now that's not, you know, they're not getting the full automated ball strike zone anymore. So they still have to know how to frame and do other things behind the plate. I will also choose just on the versatility thing. I think with putting a Cincinnati first, I feel like they would have better off trying to stick him like Yoshida at first and just saying, screw it. Right. I mean, his bat was so hot, like, can't go much worse than Kyle Schwarber did.
Trevor Story might have had 14 throwing errors in the month of September if poor little Yoshida was at first base.
Oh, that's absolutely true. But like, considering how good his running form is, maybe he's at good form at first.
Who knows?
Maybe, I mean, who knows?
Yeah, all 5 foot 2 of him.
That's another guy who's big question mark.
Massive. Oh,
hey, that's another guy with a big question mark entering next year as well.
Yeah,
also like Kristian, like, talk about giving Kristian Campbell like a roster spot, not just giving him a roster spot. Like, even if you trade away like Duran and Willier, like, you very well, like, Yoshida could potentially play left field, right? Like, I'm not saying that'd be Alex Cora's favorite thing in the world, but he could.
And it's been a long time since we've seen the front office be willing to kind of attach a prospect or eat a significant amount of money to kind of get a deal. You can maybe mention it a little bit with Chris Sale, where they kept a good portion of that deal to get Vaughn Grissom. Obviously, it didn't work out. But at this point, I think with Yoshida, depending on how things play out here a little bit, it might just make more sense for you to move him off the roster. If you attach something with it, someone will take the player. The problem is, all the last 2 years, they don't want to give anything significant up to do it. I think your farm system and organization's at a point, and I like Masataka Yoshida. I think he has value, but they clearly told you they only think he can face righties, and for a team looking for pop, that's very tough. I do wonder with Pete Alonso, and I thought it was a big deal that Scott Boras mentioned he's willing to get time at DH because he is not a good defensive first baseman.
Right.
I do think there's a little bit of the Tristan Casas thing here where, hey, maybe not to start the year, but if he goes down and he looks like the guy we were talking about in 2023, maybe it's more of a deadline thing. Is there room for a Casas Romy platoon at first and Pete Alonso at a DH spot? I think Bregman, as much as people are freaking out about the Morosi quote today, and, you know, is it Bregman or Schwarber? I think a Bregman alternative is Okamoto. I really do, because I think if you're looking for a guy who probably has somewhere in that like 20-ish home run pop, not going to strike out, actually played more third base than first base last year. You know, probably a Gold Glove type of player at first, average to below at third. That could fit in there, but
I think at third for how long? I mean, I think you could
exactly like, right. But it's that balance here of defense versus.
I mean, I've thrown out Bo Bichette just because, like,
I like Bo Bichette.
I've thrown out Bo Bichette, but he has to grow his hair back out. That's part of the contract.
Get the aura back.
Yeah, he's got to grow the hair out. That's part of the contract. He can play second. Meyer can play third, while Story, you know, until Story blows his elbow out or something. I don't know.
Even that, though, like, when you start to picture this infield, that's where someone like Franklin Arias, as much as we include him in every trade proposal, who's playing shortstop 3 years from now, you hope it would be Marcelo Meyer. You may have multiple spots in the infield that need filling.
Yeah, you might have second base. I mean, I've given Arias, like, it's not a direct comp, but I've given him kind of like the Bogarts comp in terms of, like, he does everything well, but, like, he doesn't have, like, an elite tool, like an elite carrying tool. And Bogarts, like, the closest thing for Bogarts was his hit tool, and I feel like Arias is kind of similar in a way. Obviously, Bogarts, you take out the juice ball year, and he's mostly 15 to 20 homers. So, I mean,
and Arias, I think, better defender. Like,
yeah,
he's
smaller though.
He is. I'll put my hand up. I've made some meme comps on Franklin Arias, and they're a little negative. And it's not because, listen, I'm a prospect hugger as much as anyone. I've brought out the Jose Peraza comp a couple times. And I think that's more on the negative side. But another Venezuelan shortstop who was in that top 40 to 60 range. He's an inch taller, ended up being 30 pounds heavier by the end of his career. I think with Arias, as time goes along, he probably add a little bit more muscle. Not a ton of projection left over there, but it's a guy with a plus hit tool, which I do think is better than what Peraza had. And Peraza was hopefully an average shortstop. I think
that one good year with the Reds.
I think it was 16 and 18 were decent years for him. But another guy that fluctuated in that 10 to 15 homer area, a lot of batting average, but not beyond that. I know Arias's exit velocities are actually pretty solid for his age. They're not bad. And to get to 88 and 19 like he did is no small thing. But it seems like it's more swing based. The reason why people are keeping the projections on the power lower, to maybe below average at best. But I don't know. It's not easy dealing these kind of guys, but you also have to realize at some point, do you want a number 2 starter or do you not? And Breslow told us probably more likely there's going to be a big trade for one of the needs and a free agent signing for the other. Whatever it is, it's going to be expensive.
I love Arias, but if it's Ketel Marte,
please.
I'll just throw this out there now because I don't know when the next time we're recording. If the Red Sox trade Ketel Marte, I might actually do a backflip.
Oh my god!
I might break my neck.
Derek is he's a Diamondbacks. It's like his National League team, so that's why
I respect it. That's a good pick.
Yeah. I was going to say that I think that a lot of this points to, which is interesting from the minor league standpoint, is that the Red Sox have brought all these guys to the big leagues as hitters, and they're the guys that are now contributing. I think a lot of these guys, maybe we thought it would be next year, but most of these guys came up this year and they contributed at the big league level. And you look at the system now, and because of the trades, because of that, if they have issues at the big league level with position players, they're going to have to address it by trade or free agency, because Arias is definitely the best prospect hitting wise in the system, and whether or not he's an everyday big leaguer is a question. So it is an interesting point where the Red Sox.
Jared Duran's a good fit for the Diamondbacks
for sure. Yeah, why not? And he's a good fit. A lot of places. A lot of places want to trade.
Cincinnati.
We've heard Minnesota, this. Multiple teams want to trade pitching for hitting, and great. That's what the Red Sox need. I think that it's going to be really interesting to see how the Red Sox address some of the deficiencies in the minor league system in terms of their hitters just filling out rosters, and they're not in a position where they're going to you could see a situation we were talking about with some of these Rule 5 eligible guys potentially would have to happen either tonight or tomorrow, where they could look to try to replenish some of the lower level hitters with some trades. And you could see that with some even others, whatever is next year, this winter's equivalent of the Cam Boozer trade could be getting hitters at that level. And I think there have been some good signs. We did see a guy like Henry Godbout come in and looked really good.
Go, Jake, go. Please, cook.
And Henry Godbout looking good, and some good things from some of the others. Like Skylar King looks really good defensively, at least, and we'll see what comes of him. Jack Winay, who's a local guy, made some waves. But I think Godbout is the guy that I look at as a lower level prospect who I feel like there's real potential there that he could be the next sort of guy that's the top position player prospect in the system. What do you think about that?
I could not be more on the same lane or thinking process, whatever you want to call it. When I first saw his swing, it reminded me so much of when we first saw, Nick York get down to Greenville, and he was swinging out of his ass and he was hitting everything around him. Obviously for Godbout, it was a much lesser thing, and York was coming out of high school. Godbout, obviously college guy coming in here. And he has kind of the Nick York mechanics that happened after the tweaks where the big leg kick came in at that time. Mm-hmm. Early Nick York was a lot more like that toe tap he had going on. But Godbout, to me, you align him up with a Kristian Campbell. It's a lot of these guys that didn't in college, they couldn't tap into that power. They come and join the organization. You see a couple tweaks and all of a sudden, that power, they were kind of chasing. We knew they could consistently put barrel to the ball, great stuff inside the zone. Can you just do more damage? He's kind of the poster boy for a lot of that stuff. I think over the last 3 seasons in college, he only had 20 homers. We all remember where Kristian Campbell was at that time. So yeah, you bring in Henry Godbout. Let's see what it looks like for, an off season where he's working. I haven't heard anything on whether he's one of these guys down in Fort Myers getting a full off season. But yeah, I look at someone like him and a college bat, someone that can move very quickly. Be nice to get some of those guys to the upper levels in the minors, because through trade or whatever, there's just not a lot of them. It's weird to look at the top 10. Yeah. Like, I looked at the start of 24 and 23 a couple days ago, and it was always 7 position players to 3 pitchers. You look at it now, and it's differently split. The Rule 5 conversations are all pitchers, the way we're kind of looking at it. It's a credit to what Craig Breslow's done. But when you trade like you did for Crochet, especially Teal and Montgomery, like, those are your first round picks right there. Like, in a world where Crochet ain't on the Red Sox, and please, I don't want to live in it, you picture those guys in the system and everything evens out very quickly. This is the cost of what you're doing. And it's going to be a lot different with this upcoming draft, how they approach things, because we saw whether it was with Marcus Phillips, Ianson, Witherspoon, they still wanted to stack arms in this entire thing. Does the dial kind of turn the other way, and they're looking for some more of those hitting prospects? And, MLB draft, so much of it, as we know, is what's the best thing you got there. You're not drafting based on need. You want the best piece possible. But there's a reason we've seen Craig Breslow attack pitching the way he has. You can definitely have something you're looking a little bit more towards than the other. And I think you're in a spot where the Red Sox are now, where it's okay to do that. You've shown that your philosophies can turn these guys out. John Hulabit's just coming over, player to be named later, has the kind of year he does. They could pull guys out of thin air, and it feels like they'd be at least organizational arms at this point.
We also have to think too, like, you can only have so many pitchers in your organization as well. Yeah. Like, you need spots for position players. Like,
Connolly early sat in Double-A for like 2 months too long.
Well, it's not even that. It's also like, you can't like go into High A and be like, oh yeah, your Yoiker Fajardo is going to play left field today because we got no left fielder.
Yeah, like, this isn't the 1800s. Like,
watch this versatility, guys. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah. Hey, maybe that's what they're trying to do with Conrad Kaysen. Yeah, he's going to pitch and play shortstop. You know what? Yeah, he's going to take up both roster spots. Wait till they draft another 2-way player next year. Just have him play. Like, he'll play left field every day, and then he'll pitch like every other week or something like that. Just something stupid. But yeah, you can only have so many pitchers on your roster as well.
Yeah, I mean, we would have thought, like, we probably would have thought that in the last draft it was like, okay, well, yeah, they're going to draft more hitters, and they did the same exact thing in the draft that they did the year before.
Well, they also traded away hitters at the deadline.
They traded away hitters at the deadline. Yeah,
that also doesn't help either.
The numbers just don't. You're counting on churning out guys from the Dominican Academy. And those guys are like, and they've had some success. Like, some of those guys at the low levels have turned into pretty decent hitters. And there's guys that I'm looking forward to seeing in the big leagues, or not in the big leagues, but in the U.S. in the next couple of years. But you're banking on a lot doing that.
And it's hard, especially when your top signing from the 2024 class just got released.
Right. Yeah.
Seeing that
tells you how volatile it is.
Yeah, but those are the guessing games you play, right? And I don't know. It's like such a different landscape today too, where, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, like, you guys remember, you'd see guys that kind of flew up prospect rankings that were in the lower minors, and they could be at the center of a deal, and teams were willing to kind of invest. Certainty is such a higher thing. Where you are in the minor leagues is valued so differently now. So it does limit like what a lot of those packages look like. And it's why someone like Kyle Teal had to go. And even Braden Montgomery, like, that was a college baseball player. We're not talking about a 18-year-old that's sitting down in the lower minors, the Justin Gonzalez's of the world or something like that you're trying to sell people on.
Yeah, but teams also too aren't as willing to get rid of those guys either as well, because Tatis was traded for who, right? Like,
you'll never live it down.
Which that's one of the points I always bring up, because people will get mad at me when I point out, like, because every year I'll do the who the Red Sox shouldn't trade this offseason, and every year I get people getting mad at me. And my point is always, like, this year I brought up Justin Gonzalez and Yoiker Fajardo as people I don't think they should trade. And it's not because, like, oh, I don't want them to get Joe Ryan for these guys. It's because teams aren't going to be asking for them for those guys. They will either be considered throw-ins, or they will be traded for much lesser pieces than someone like Joe Ryan. Like Milliken said, they are you're so volatile when you're down that low. It really feels like people don't get the same. They don't have the value that they'll have when they hit AA. Like the second someone hits AA, it really feels like their value shoots up because it's like, okay, now they're this much closer to the majors. Now we're seeing them succeed at higher levels because the amount of people we've seen over the last few years go cook in single A for a little bit and then struggle in Greenville. And at the end, we're always like, oh, now that they're in Greenville, they're going to hit better because they're outside of Salem's terrible ballpark. And it doesn't happen. So like there is that. And then there's also just something I feel like I've had to mention to a lot of people, and it's frustrating because it's a good thing, but it's also they keep making me look like an idiot. I keep trying to tell people like, you can't expect, because every year people will ask like, oh, who's going to be the Roman Anthony this year? And it's like, you can't expect the prospect to do what Roman Anthony did. And then I say that, and Kristian Campbell and Justinson Garcia fly up boards. And I'm like, oh, you can't expect people to do that. And then Peyton Tolley does what he did. And it's like, you can't expect. And it's like, how many years can I say this? Like Franklin Arias and
wait for Witherspoon. Wait.
Yeah, like, I keep saying this, and it's like, now Kyson Witherspoon's going to go nuts. And
or Henry
Gonzalez could go nuts. And someone in single A, Jack Winay or Maximus Martin, like these people could just have ridiculous years. It's happened, 3-4 years in a row. And
it's ready for Juan Valera's big league debut next year.
Okay, that is one though. Like Juan Valera, you're telling me every team that calls the Red Sox, and you start talking like that secondary tier, outside of the Arias, totally no. But it's like this is a guy with a plus fastball that's gotten up to 100 with secondaries that seem to be average to above average. Dealt with an injury, cost him most of this year. Obviously, you're telling me you're not sitting there like, give me fucking Juan Valera. Like, that's a name you're going to see, and it's going to be painful to watch it move in a deal. But like,
he was a pipeline top 100 before the injury.
Exactly. Like these,
you better be getting your money's worth though when you're moving someone like that. That's the thing.
Your teams will be jumping on Luis Perales because they think, oh, the stock's low. He's coming off TJ. No one's going to give a damn about the Arizona Fall League numbers. The only thing they will care about, he hit 101 down there, fresh off surgery. That's the stuff. Like we can jump on something that maybe by spring training, his stock is, he was a top 60 guy when the elbow blew out, but he could be right back at that if he shows up to camp and all of a sudden the command has come back to him. There's going to be so many teams swarming because they know you can develop arms. And we saw when the Red Sox couldn't do it. You will die for any arm with potential. Yeah. The Red Sox were salivating when they got Josh Winkowski. That was like, oh my God, we got Josh Winkowski.
We made a 3-team trade just to get him.
Like that's how desperate you were for pitching. And unfortunately, that's most of the league.
Yeah.
It's crazy how much. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's also too like the thing too is like the Red Sox having a surplus of pitching is almost like it's literally a benefit, right? The only thing is, and this is what I guess kind of every GM, president of baseball ops, CBO, whatever their position is, going to get graded on is terms of like, you're gonna have to trade guys away, but you got to trade the right guys away. But like everyone get like a lot of people like if we want to kind of circle conversation to like Dombrowski, everyone's like, well, he knew who were the right guys to trade away and whatnot. I'm like, he didn't know. He made good educated guesses. He didn't know. Like he could have traded like the Chris Sale trade could have ended up like giving the White Sox 4 future franchise players. You don't know that, right? You have to take educated guesses. Like someone like a Connolly Early, for example, like we talked about. That's someone who the Red Sox view highly. And do I think they're going to trade him? No, right? Someone like we talk about the David Hamilton thing, right? Considering like maybe the Red Sox should have moved him last offseason. They didn't, right? But also too, the Red Sox, I guess they could make the argument that he was in contention to play second base. You could make that argument as well, right? But looking at this offseason, you look at David Hamilton, you go, where does he fit, right? So I guess like it's like the hindsight's 2020 thing, like the White Sox with Fernando Tatis. It's hindsight's 2020. You shouldn't have traded him, but you did, right?
Yeah.
Yohan Moncada could have been a legitimate every year, like perennial all-star, right? It looks good on Dombrowski that he traded him because he didn't become a perennial all-star, but he had a couple really good years, right? Like I think too, like Moncada could have had the Devers career and Devers could have had the Moncada career, right? So in some ways too, like you do have to get, I mean, like Breslow said, you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? If the Red Sox do want to make moves, like they're gonna have to get uncomfortable, whether it's Joe Ryan, Hunter Green, which I still don't even know if it's real, or even when it comes financially, right? Whether it's maybe it's a Cease or Valdez or Amai or whoever, which for the record, I really want Amai just so he can go to the Dodgers.
I like him a lot. No QO attached. I do not.
Yes.
As long as the pitching infrastructure, I'd be curious to see how they evaluate a lot of what he does, but there's velocity there and obviously secondaries that are very interesting. I think
keep
the
him away
Dylan
from the
Cease
Dodgers.
stuff. Yeah, please. If another one of those guys ends up over there, it's going to get only scarier. But Dylan Cease, like someone to me who you've circled around twice now to last year during the offseason, again at the trade deadline, and someone who is just a metric darling in every single way. Obviously, the ERA was inflated this past season, but someone who also eats innings and can go out there and give you, what you consider a workhorse today. I'd be extremely interested in someone like Dylan Cease. If Framber Valdez didn't try to kill his teammate, I'd probably be more interested in something like that. But like that's where this whole thing about whether the Red Sox are willing to trade for an arm or whatever it may be. They were ready to trade for an arm at the deadline, and Breslow was so disappointed. You could see it on his face after everything wrapped up. I have a hard time believing now he's not going to be willing to have those conversations again.
Yeah, he definitely will. I think too, it also comes down to like it's also like opportunity cost as well, because like you also too could look at it. It's like, would you rather give Amai, let's just say $200 million, or would you rather make a big trade for Joe Ryan, or I doubt Hunter Green's on the block, but his name's being thrown around. I've chucked around Nick Lodolo instead because I think he's more likely to get traded. That's besides the point. I like that more as an idea than Hunter Green.
I interest me a ton.
I think it's more likely, but just like in terms of like, would you rather trade away maybe Duran plus like Arias plus something for a number 2, or would you rather just give the money to a guy, whether it's Amai, Cease, etc., and then trade Duran for something else? Right?
Do they look at Michael King and say, we can get this guy for $375 with nothing attached, and we believe if he stays healthy, he can put up numbers that look a lot closer to 2024 than 2025? Like, it's where you're going to see how risky they're willing to get. And you trade for Joe Ryan. Yeah, he's older than a lot of people realize, so the extension conversation is there. I also will tell you, if you look at Joe Ryan's second half stats over the years, it's not a one-off thing here. He is a guy who wears down year after year after year. What does that mean to the Red Sox and how they go about it? Should be something that weighs in a bit there.
Also,
Pablo Lopez too.
Yeah, how much do they believe in the guys they have as well? I think that's another big thing. And also, too, like you look at a guy like, I hate to bring it up because I was ready for him to get out the door, but Nick Pivetta, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I was ready. I'm like, get the young guys in. I want to see some younger guys get shot in the rotation. Pivetta leaves. That guy got Cy Young votes, right? Like in the National League. Yes, pitcher friendly ballpark. There is that.
Alex Cora definitely will make sure you know that whenever he comes up. That was one of the neatest things I had ever seen. Just you know where he pitches, right? Like, all right, okay.
Wow.
He can't give up bombs to people.
I think it tells you how Cora feels about him. I mean, and I think that Cora is
ready to get rid of him.
You just remember the whole like Cotillo thing, and he gets pissed at him for even bringing up the idea that he would go to the bullpen. And, that just, Cora, as we've seen, I think what's very clear is that Cora believes and wants guys that put the team first. That's why it's a big part of the reason why a certain someone is no longer here.
Yeah, it's also been outed when Casas first went out and had his tanning session on the field the first time. Nick Pivetta was the pitcher in the story of who the hell is this guy out here? What does he think he's doing?
That sounds about right.
That was him.
Yeah.
I don't know. So has that? I've heard that name mentioned before, but I don't know that I've ever heard that publicly stated. I've seen that. I don't know if you guys have mentioned that on the 10, but
over like the last 3 months, it got announced because for a year or so, it was not said publicly.
I had only heard that. I had only heard that in DMs. I had never heard that in public, that it was him that was the one that was mad about.
Happy to hear.
Wanted to make sure
the same thing.
Okay. Yeah. It was. Yeah. But yeah, I think that I don't know. There's a lot of ways that they can go this offseason. And I think that it's good to have talent. It's good to have players that it seems like other teams want, and so you can kind of address things. And I think that the thing that gives me the most puts me at ease a little bit is last offseason, and the fact that the Red Sox in general as an organization, as a franchise, were willing to put their best foot forward. It took a long time, at least on the Bregman side of it, right? And I still think it's a balance. I think that the Red Sox are a team that is very value driven, and they want to get guys at their price and at their level. But I think that they do know that they were, that the team they finally made the playoffs. They finally had a team that makes the playoffs, and that in order to get to that next level, it does feel like this is what we're hearing, which is that they know that they're going to have to do more to get the team to the next level, which is a deeper playoff run. And at the end of the day, all that matters is how the team actually plays next year, because the MLB offseason is long, and the same shit happens every year where people are very impatient. It's, I think Josh Naylor signing last night was like the worst thing that could have happened. Like the fact that it's like November 16th and he signs like a 5-year deal, and it's like,
Murakami's going to be signing soon too.
Sleepy Breslow back at it. It's
right.
Like, guys,
so it's
please.
like, it's just, it bugs me. So I'm going to try my best this offseason not to get annoyed by that stuff. But like, I think that at the end of the day, what Matt, up until mid-February last year, we didn't have, Bregman wasn't here. So you just never know what's going to happen and what's going to present itself. So I think that let's see how, hopefully there's some good moves. Hopefully things happen. Hopefully by Christmas, things are kind of set up for next season. I'm not necessarily banking on that. But what matters is like that they go into spring training next year and you look at a team that you can say that you feel like is, better in a better position to be a playoff team than they even were going into 2025.
I also battle for the 4 and 5 starters spots in the rotation. Good luck.
And who's left over once a trade
happens.
Also,
too, can we like a guy who I don't think I haven't seen like many people mention, also because he like didn't pitch all, but like Cutter Crawford is just like sitting there like nobody remembers him, and it's like, but also too like he's also like, so what do you do with him? Like,
it's hard, right? Because I remember Alex Cora. It was like a big thing in 2022 when he came up out of the bullpen. Cora admitted it. Like, I saw Cutter Crawford as a reliever, and then you had stretches in 24. It's like I feel like people have like amnesia over what that season was. Yeah, it was a 4.36 ERA. Dude, halfway through the season and through different stretches, like he pitched better than a number 5 starter. And I'm not telling you he's not a back end starter. That is more likely than not what he is, especially with some of the homer problems. But this was a guy like first full season starting, he showed he could be a back end arm. You combine him and Patrick Sandoval, who they paid this money to rehab here. He needs to be given an opportunity. I was thrilled when they didn't give Giolito the QO because I thought you had to raise the ceiling and you have enough of these back end arms. But like people talk about Cutter Crawford, like he threw up a 5 ERA and gave you nothing. Like the guy made 30 starts and showed flashes of being more.
Yeah.
Even if it's worst case 5 starter too, like
yes.
What's so bad about that?
You probably got to fuse him and Sandoval together to get 30 starts. Sandoval isn't going to give you 30 starts off TJ, and Cutter Crawford didn't throw an inning last year. And he's had injuries pop up, and sometimes the velocity is dragged down, and he had to push through it. So cool. Get a starter out of both of them, and you'll be thrilled. And I'll let Connolly Early hopefully go out there and do the damn thing for 30 starts, and Steamer can't be more happy. I think he had the second lowest ERA out of any rookie projected next year with like a 3.86. And it's not the end all be all, but that's a guy who did not look phased in some very big moments. And if he can just put on a little bit more weight and maintain that velocity a little bit longer, there's maybe ceiling there of a number 3 starter. And I think a lot of people would be thrilled with that. And I haven't even said the name Toley or Perales, who those are really what most people see is the most talented arms in the system.
Yeah. And then also you add it, you still have like guys like Dobbins, for example.
Love me some Dobbins.
You still have Kyle Harrison. That's another one. Like there's some big potential there, right? Like it's almost funny though too, because I feel like coming into this season, I was like, with the Red Sox, like even if you have Crochet, like I felt like they very much could have used another lefty starter. And I look at it, I'm like, yeah, they're good on lefties. Mm-hmm. You're like Crochet, Sandoval being kind of your proven with air quotes for Sandoval because we don't know what he's going to look like post Tommy John. But Harrison, Toley, Early, like that's what 5 lefties right there, right? Like the Red Sox could legitimately run out of 10-man rotation next year, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm cool with it. Like they're not going to, but like with the names they have, if everyone were to stay healthy, and that's before they even add a potential number 2, which they want to do.
Yeah. I even someone
Hunter, you were going to say something. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. Want to let Hunter talk.
Oh, okay. I was going to, I had 2 quick points to make. One was just back when Jake was talking about the potential moves and how long it'll take. Something I really want to stress is I'm not saying fans need to like piss themselves with excitement at every little move. You should absolutely hold the front office to high standards, but I really want fans to not get pissy when smaller moves are made. How many fans last year talked about like, oh, who cares about Yorker Fajardo? And then he turns into this good prospect. How many fans last year completely shit on getting Carlos Narvaez, who is now like the favorite player of the organization? Like when that move was made, fans were like, oh, who cares? Oh, a depth. We need a catcher. We trade Kyle Teal, and this is who we get in return.
Romy Gonzalez. And people crapped on us for getting the White Sox scraps.
Yeah. Like you get these players, and they're not all going to work out. Like Giovanni Moran was whatever. Like he didn't pitch most of the year, and then he kind of struggled. Some of them aren't going to work out, but you're going to get some good players at times, and people who turn into good prospects. So I'm not saying fans need to like freak out and get super excited at every move, but it would be a nice change of pace to see these moves announced and not have fans act like the organization's trash because they made a depth signing.
Do the duck boats.
Yeah, which every single organization does, by the way.
Minor league signings? Are you kidding me? What is this?
Jason DeLay? Who the hell is that?
And then there's one name we haven't talked about yet. And I think he's someone who could fit in as infield help at some point, or he could be a genuine trade piece. We've yet to say Mikey Romero's name on here. And he is a middle infielder who has, I truly believe, like legitimate 30 home run power. Like he has the strides he's made with the exit velocity and just everything over the last few years has been incredible. Obviously, he needs to stay healthy, but he's done that much better the last 2 seasons. And he's got like the strikeout problem. But I think a lot of teams will view a middle infielder, probably a second baseman, but a middle infielder who could also play third, who has very, very, very good power as a really intriguing trade piece. Like he could be someone. I don't think you're going to get like Joe Ryan for Mikey Romero and something else. But he could be like one of the main pieces in that. If it's Mikey Romero, Stinson Garcia, and then you throw a little extra on. Like he is someone I think that could be a big part of a trade, or someone that they factor into their infield if they make other moves to get their pieces. So just he's someone I'm kind of shocked that we're an hour and a half or an hour and 15 minutes in and we have not mentioned Mikey Romero.
And I'll go back to spring training last year. Alex Cora, talk about highlighting a guy and like giving him a minute to be like, wow, I did not expect this when he came up and he kind of opened my eyes. And it was Mikey Romero doing a lot of that. And another guy, like where you look at the age he got to AAA and it's like, dude, he is young, like to get to the highest level of the minors. And yes, I understand the numbers at AAA was mostly power carrying that line, but didn't look completely lost against lefties either. And that had been a real kind of storyline those first couple of years in the minors, but to kind of transform his body after all the injuries, now, more of a second base, third base profile. That has plenty of interest around the league. It may not be what the Red Sox need right now, but I do have this fantasy in my brain of him and Marcelo Meyer playing just a game in Boston together. I go back to that draft call all the time of like, they drafted me, like, obviously grew up together and had all these different things. Could we have a Meyer and Romero shortstop second base moment in the majors where 2 friends come together? I don't think we're going to get it. But yeah, to have that kind of power at second base and third base, I wouldn't be shocked if he shows up to AAA next year and all of a sudden, like, this is a guy who looks like a 110 to 115 WRC plus bat and, is popping 25 homers in a place like Polar Park that, the ball's flying out of there, especially to right field when things are going.
He needs to walk more. That's definitely. I think that's
which approach. He did make small strides.
Yeah,
small steps.
Small strides, yeah. We also have to be careful though. We don't need Roman Anthony getting jealous of Marcelo Meyer maybe having a new best friend. Let's be a little bit careful. He's
known Romero a lot longer. So
no, that is
Mikey's married, so he won't go out on the town.
But
I do also want to bring up though. It's funny, you know what? Like the last few years, you know what I feel like the Red Sox are missing, and I don't know how the hell they're gonna get it. And this has nothing to do with like actual on the field, but like I feel like the Red Sox are missing like a big personality star. Like even like you go back to like Manny, Ortiz, even Pedroia, and like I feel like the Red Sox are missing that in some ways. Like Duran's like the closest thing you have, but like I feel like Duran's not at that level of
what kind of personality are we talking about? Big
but like you see the jersey sales sometimes. Like, damn, he's that high on the list. Like
it's a good point. Like I'm,
like Roman and Marcelo are like so humble and like they're such good people. But like you look at someone like, for example, like this is totally out of. I keep bringing up Tatis, Acuna, etc. Like even as much as I hate him, Jazz Chisholm. As much as I hate him.
A guy like Casas would probably be the only guy with the sort of outgoing like personality, and he obviously has a bit of a kooky personality.
Yes.
And is a bit unorthodox, but obviously his play at the big league level has not tracked with him being kind of like. But I agree with what you're saying. It is interesting because I just think that a lot of guys, I don't know if it's like media training or like they're trained not to say anything interesting. Like I think it kind of gets beaten out of guys, especially as they get closer to the majors. Like some guy, like I don't know, like I think there's a lot of fun guys on the Red Sox now. I don't think
fun,
it's
but there's still not that big personality.
Right. There's no David Ortiz. Yeah. Right. There's no Dustin Pedroia. There's no Manny Ramirez. No Manny. Like it was more
there's
about
there's never gonna be no.
Well, Manny was more on the field. He didn't like talk to the media very much, but like it was more that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But because like
Kike was Kike wasn't a star, but Kike was big personality, right?
Well, somebody, we don't need guys that have like a higher, more inflated opinion of themselves than they actually are. Like that, I think.
We don't need to we don't hear Kike talking about the Dodgers butt tattoos. Okay,
but good. I think that Anthony, they're obviously they want him to be the face of the franchise. Like that's what's clear. And I think that he is. We talked about this quite a bit on the show where it felt like when he first got drafted and he first came in, he seemed really guarded. Like he seemed really like, I remember like one of the first interviews I think I ever saw of him. It was him. I think he went on with Ed and Andrew on their podcast. And he was just like talking about like how he didn't, other than baseball, like he like didn't do anything. Like he just was like, it's like, yeah, I just like to hang out with my friends and my family. Like I don't really do anything else. And I think that over time, he got a lot more comfortable sort of talking about himself, like kind of expressing himself a little bit more in interviews and being more comfortable in his own skin. And I think that we've seen more of that with him as he's got to the big leagues as well. But I don't, and but I don't see him being the sort of like big personality really either. But he's much more of like, I'm gonna lead by example and try to do that once he gets. Obviously, like I said, they want him to be the face of the franchise, and I think he can be. But like that, like big personality type of thing, it doesn't really feel like him either.
It's also
like that kind of guy who's gonna like kind of get like start a fire under the team when they need it, whereas like kind of be like a firecracker almost. Whereas like I said, Duran's the closest thing they have to it, but he's not at that like elite level. And even then, he has his ups and downs.
Like when you see what this fan base has turned Casas into, like how they want to refer to him or speak of him, like to the point where like you can't even type his name in on a social media platform without someone saying something incredibly foul, or just crapping on the guy saying he only cares about himself. He doesn't care about baseball. When like you follow the dude's story, he doesn't do anything but baseball. Like, do you people have like that Jen McCaffrey story from a year ago of him being the last guy at Fenway? He
literally lives in a hotel right down the road from Fenway.
Like seriously. So like you see how just being who you are and trying to be comfortable can like bite you in the ass. I think it's hard. I think it's with a lot of the names we mentioned, it comes with not only being that personality, but can you be the superstar level player? I think Marcelo Meyer has the aura, the swag. Like we see, I remember him getting a bunch of talk in the minor leagues for his ability to connect with all teammates and kind of being this guy that everyone gravitates towards. Cool. If you're not one of the best players on the team or that guy, it's hard to become that. The closest thing, and I think we saw it for maybe it was a 2-week span, but the Ceddanne Rafaela hot streak in the middle of the summer
Yes.
after Fairbanks, like for a moment, for 2 weeks, you had that kind of like, holy fuck, like this guy is, he is that, he has the energy, he has the swagger,
and the team was on a heater.
Yeah, too. He has that like kid-like energy where like it's infectious to watch him play. Is someone who's, you know, been a Ceddanne Rafaela hater or whatever. Like most things, we understand the hot streaks and the cold streaks often come and go, but it takes that combination of things. And I do think if you are that star eventually and you have moments in the city, it doesn't matter. You can get lifted to that stardom. It just hasn't happened for this core yet. I think even Crochet's not the biggest like funny guy or whatever, but when he was out on that mound and he started screaming after big moments or that playoff start, it was like, oh no, the world knows Garrett Crochet at this point. He just needs more opportunity because his words aren't always going to be the thing that gets a headline or whatever it is.
Yeah. I know we only have a couple minutes left. He's got to go on the road. So everybody check the traffic reports. You never know what'll happen. But
I'm coming for you. I promise you. I'm coming for you.
Hopefully no news breaks though. I mean,
yes.
As long as Cotillo's not on a plane.
Yes, my sister won't be getting home to 3 a.m. If something breaks. I'm going to be on that side of that road. I promise you.
But I do have something that I wanted to make sure I asked you this before it ended, was just heading into this year. I'll give you like a prospect who's maybe more known, and then maybe like a lower level prospect that you're most excited to watch grow this year. So maybe like a top X prospect who like everybody will talk about, and then a nerd prospect that
and Alan Castro's never a bad answer.
It won't be the answer today. I'm sorry to tell you. Jorge Rodriguez, number 42 on Sox prospects list right now, down in the FCL this year. And man, just hearing the reports on his arm and what he was doing behind the plate, and that's not to crap on what he was doing offensively, because he's 5'10", smaller guy, but still showed, decent exit velocities, and he had a little power to the pull side. But when you hear someone saying plus arm, really strong receiver, that young, best defensive catcher in the FCL, we see in minor league baseball all the time. If you could just catch and you have the ability to kind of groom a pitching staff and do those kind of things, you will stick around forever. To be that young and you're already showing great traits defensively, 1.9 pop time, along with something on the offensive side. We saw a couple of years ago with Johan Fran Garcia, just some of the stock and how the hype was building before he blew his knee out. And that was for a guy a lot of people didn't think was going to stick at catcher, but there was something there in terms of a good arm and he has power. People were kind of losing their mind and getting all excited about. So Jorge Rodriguez would probably be my pick on that front. If we're talking a bigger name, someone that I'm kind of sneaky, a big fan of, that's a good one. It's probably the boring answer, but Juan Valera would be my pick, because I just feel like he's going to have a rocket attached to him if he has a fully healthy season. Like you can get nervous about him missing time with the arm issue this year, but if you're telling me at his age to be hitting 101 with secondaries that grade average or above, I think he's the kind of freak that this pitching infrastructure can kind of lift up. You could say with Anthony Ianson as well, the secondaries and what he has kind of going on there too. I think college arms are going to move in general after the Trey Savage moment. They are going to start to accelerate through the minors in ways where it might change how a lot of people look at pitching overall. Even Marcus Phillips, like I've seen some Tanner Houck comps out there and some of that different stuff. But another college arm, I wouldn't be surprised if all three of those names, with Witherspoon at the very top, are pushing for the big leagues. But those other two behind them might make the Red Sox a lot more willing to trade some of the depth that people are already betting on for next season, because they believe these guys are going to funnel in and keep going. But a lot of Jorge Rodriguez stuff going on in my brain these days. And nice. I'm a big catching prospect guy. I always have been. I attempted to catch growing up. Horrendous. They used to call me the Kelly Shoppick of the baseball team. But I promise you, I was great behind the plate. There was nothing with that, but I was great.
I mean, he was a big leaguer.
Hey, listen, I was an 8th grade ball player. We all go to different levels, but it was a moment.
I will say on the Valera front, just that it does speak to how highly they view him, that they put him in high A to start last year as an 18-year-old with 23 innings of single A experience. Like they very clearly see very special things out of Juan Valera. So that in itself should excite people.
Also, I just want to throw in another college arm because he hasn't pitched in the Red Sox system yet. Brandon Neely. Just chuck it in there. because he hasn't
got a little
him
in the AFL.
Yeah, got a little bit of him in the AFL. He hasn't pitched in the system, so I figured I'd chuck him in because he was a 3rd-round pick. So
I do have one more nerd prospect, if you guys don't mind.
Please.
That is totally fine.
Do it.
Barrett Morgan. I am in on this train as well. 11th round pick from the Red Sox this past year. 6'5", like very reliever-like mechanics. We'll see what ends up happening with them once they put him in games, if he's going to attempt to start or whatever it may be in the first place. But I believe it was the 3rd highest bonus of anyone who was taken in the 11th round that year. To me, he screams another one of these arms that could just, hey, we're going to make you a reliever and push all the way through and not play this game with the starter stuff. I think he's someone who fits into that profile. Fastball gets up to 97, 98 with that funky delivery. I like those arms a lot. Listen, I used to be a very, geez, I'm going to be in big trouble next pod. But it reminds me, like I used to write like about Steven Nagosic all the time back in the day. And like, I remember these like old reliever prospects I'd get excited about. His kind of stuff, I feel like is something that's meant to move quickly, and who knows how it'll play out in the long run. But when you have a bonus that big in the 11th round, it does kind of make me pay attention a little bit for an organization that seems to know what they're doing on the pitching front.
Yeah. Last thing that I just want to mention before we wrap up, the arguably biggest piece of non-news that is news, Chad Tracy's still around.
Yes.
It's not news because no news because he wasn't hired anywhere, but it's also news because he's still with the Red Sox.
I was shocked he didn't get an interview over the last couple of weeks of some team just willing to hear him out. You hear all these reviews, and you guys would know better than me being down there as much as you are.
Oh, he's amazing.
But the way everybody talks about him is that exact way. Like, this guy is a future MLB manager. I was hoping
an award for most likely like AAA manager to be an MLB manager a couple years ago.
Baseball America did. It was a survey or something, right? Where it was his peers who voted. This isn't just, us or fans or whatever it may be. I was almost hoping there was a way for him to land on the big league staff, but who knows?
I was thinking if Ramon Vasquez gets a manager job, then he maybe steps up and becomes the bench coach. But
I was going to say, like, I somebody could, immediately prove me wrong on this, but I feel like we haven't seen as many hires of guys go directly from being a AAA manager to being a big league manager in a while. I feel like that's something that happened more in the past.
Look at Kurt
John Schneider.
Wasn't John Schneider? Wasn't he interim? Like, he was the interim manager after they fired.
Montoya.
Yeah. So
the reason why he was interim manager was because he had the experience with Vladdy and Bichette.
Right, but I'm pretty sure he was their AAA manager and then he became the interim manager. I thought he was the bench coach. Like, I thought he was on Charlie Montoya. Well, either way, what I'm saying is I feel like you don't see that as much. And my thought is that probably for Chad Tracy to get hired as a big league manager, he probably will need to go be on a big league staff as a coach somewhere and then get that opportunity. And I think the fact that obviously he has extensive experience managing in the minor leagues and is so many raves about him is really helpful. But I do wonder if that's like, I mean, obviously we just saw a college D1 coach get hired as a big league manager. Well, so it's not like,
even beyond that, Kurt Suzuki, a guy who never managed at any level. Flaherty, a guy who was just a special assistant, obviously a former player, right? But that's like it. Look at Albert Pujols and how much attention he got during this managerial cycle, right? Like, it's kind of crazy, but people want like the headline hire over maybe someone who's busted their ass for 6 years down in the minor leagues and done what they had to do filling all these roles. It's kind of backwards. And it seems like the industry, like a lot of these longtime coaches in the minor leagues feel some type of way about it. I don't blame them. Like, you put in all this time to develop as a coach, you would hope you'd get the opportunity.
Now, Shire was their bench coach before he became interim manager.
Right. Yeah.
But he was the AA manager before then. So.
Right. Yeah. He had worked with all of those guys. Like, that was why they were super comfortable with him. But yeah, I just think like that's Chad Tracy's path. I feel like is being go be a bench coach or a third base coach somewhere, and then maybe he gets that opportunity. But hopefully it happens. But in the meantime, I'm glad that he's still in the Red Sox organization.
Yeah. Yeah. And they still have Iggy Suarez down in Worcester as well. So they kind of get both of those guys. So whenever Tracy leaves, Iggy Suarez is right there to take that
Feels
spot.
like it. Yeah. Feels like it.
Yep. But Tyler, before you get going, anything you want to obviously section time, I think we all know, but
please listen to the pod. We have some pretty big interviews coming up this week. One of them has already been piece together because the guest list when Jared was doing it a couple episodes ago. We are going to have Connolly early at some point over the next 2 weeks that will release.
Nice.
But we have another big interview coming this week. It'll be recorded, which I think a lot of people will want to gravitate towards because it's the off season. And when some of the big dogs speak, you should often listen. Whatever podcast they appear on, we see them do the rounds or whatever it may be. But it's definitely going to be an interview. I think hopefully we get some good clarity on what's coming in the next year or so. And that's what I'll leave you with. And at Tyler Milliken _ on X. I'm sorry already. I know I tweet way too much, but I like to yap. And I'm always on there. And whether it's the aggregating or whatever it may be, you're going to get some bullshit. It'll probably be a 2007 Red Sox screenshot that people think is some serious message. And it's just me falling asleep at 2 a.m. watching a random game and reliving my childhood.
There you go.
Thank you guys for having me on.
Thanks for coming on.
We appreciate it.
We really appreciate it. This was great.
We do appreciate it. So, everyone, thanks for tuning in. As always, for Jake and Hunter, and for this time for Tyler. My name is Derek. Thanks for tuning into the Pesky Report, and we'll see you next time.